All right. So today I wanted to just share the technique that I would recommend when someone is feeling overwhelmed and like the nervous system is going into kind of a freeze or fight or flight state. Mostly freeze, but I think it's different for different people, the way their nervous systems respond. But a lot of the work I talk about is about feeling into the fear, right? So no matter what the mind is saying, don't go there. That's too much. I can't handle this. And noticing that that's narrative, that's thoughts, and to realize that it's okay to let go into that fear, to let go into the physical experience. But what I've noticed from my own experimenting and explorations that I wanted to share is sometimes it feels like the nervous system is going into a freeze state. And I think there's some nuances to this approach that are really important and helpful here. So, what could happen is we could be feeling into something difficult. We could be feeling a little bit overwhelmed. For me, if I push myself really hard, like with exercise, really high intensity, high heart rate exercise for a long period of time, and then I have some other stress in my life, I can feel the nervous system going into that state. It's just for me a natural understanding of that's how my nervous system works. If I push really hard, then there's a strong sympathetic response. It's kind of natural with exercise. But so, for example, that happened yesterday. I had a really intense workout, and then I had a couple of difficult decisions to make. So, something that I needed to make a decision on that I wasn't sure either way which outcome to decide on. And I noticed then when I was sitting and feeling into this, so, if I didn't know what to do, I was like, let me stop, let me feel into this. And I noticed my nervous system going into like a kind of freeze state. And it was made sense to me because of kind of the physical and the stress of the day. But I realized there that in that state, the most helpful response, and this is the technique I want to share because I've had questions around this, and I think this response is really important as opposed to just trying to push through, just trying to really bare knuckle through the difficult stuff. For me, and I've had a lot of practice with this, so that this might not come naturally at first, but you can practice this, right? You can really learn to work with your nervous system in this way. So what I decided to do, and I recommend this, was to really just soothe what was coming up, to really not force myself to try and make the right decision, not force myself to, let go into the depths of discomfort, just soothe what was coming up, right? There was a lot of not knowing coming up. Like, I don't actually know what's the right step forward here. I just don't know. I'm trying to make a decision and I don't know. And at the same time, I'm feeling discomfort in my body. And in that situation, just soothe it, right? It's okay. It's absolutely okay that that's what's coming up. And that's the best response, right? You don't want to fight with that part of yourself. That's what it needs. It needs to be held. It needs to be soothed. Especially if the nervous system's going into freeze mode. We need to be gentle here. We need to be compassionate. We need to give it that nurturing that is the only way to really deal with this stuff. And it's an important counterpoint because it is what I found always works for me. Whenever anything difficult is coming up, really to come at it with a nurturing perspective. But I also do try to share the importance of not believing the mind and holding back from the discomfort. My last few videos have really been about that you have to be willing to let go into the uncomfortable. But I feel like we need to balance the approach that if things are feeling too much, if you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe you've been trying to do inquiry and there's just so much stuff coming up, then really a soothing, nurturing approach, I think, is going to be your best way forward. And I think it's such an important tool to have in your toolbox, right? That you can start to respond to your nervous system in the best way that's going to work. And that's really where this work comes around, to you finding your tools that work. It can take a while for us to experiment and find what works. And that's what I try to share here. It's like, look, this is what worked for me. Try it. And I think it will help. But instead of just using this like one kind of, okay, I have to do this every single time, I have to always sit and whatever. So I think being able to practice and have access to this other technique of nurturing, soothing, really using unconditional allowance, acceptance, and love to deal with whatever's coming up that's sending us into a freeze mode, that's sending us into overwhelm, to just be like, that's okay, that can be here. And again, that's how I recommend doing this deep work. When I say we need to feel into the depths of discomfort, you can do that with love, with gentleness, with, this kind of really soft approach. And sure, sometimes, just really being hard has been helpful for me. Like if I'm just sitting and I'm uncomfortable and I just want to get up, then it's just like, no, just stay with this. Just go deeper. But yeah, if we feel like we're going to freeze, if we feel like we're going to overwhelm, this really soft approach of just, you can talk internally out loud, just, it's okay. You're doing your best. And it's okay, whatever comes up, the feeling of, I don't know, this is too much, I can't handle this. It's okay. What if you don't have to turn that experience into the wrong experience? We're so used to believing that is bad to feel that. So you want to allow it to be there, but just in a soothing aspect, it's okay. So this is what I find the most helpful, is to really soothe the nervous system, sit for a period of time and feel into what would it feel like if I tried this? What would it feel like if I was like, it's okay? And it really has a soothing effect on the nervous system. It's just like, it's okay. You don't need to, work on making things better right now. You don't need to work on being a good person. You don't need to work on your recovery. You don't need to work on success. You don't need to work on whatever it feels like you need to work on, you need to fix. What if you just, in that moment when things are feeling so much, just, it's okay. You don't have to do anything except work in the soothing manner and just be like, it's okay. And whatever comes up, it's okay. Work with this soft, gentle approach. And I feel like that is the go-to technique that I would recommend from my own experience in these states, in this state of overwhelm, fear, freeze mode. Just be soft. Just see if you can gently relax the body and really access this feeling of soothing, like you were talking to this innocent little child who is in a tough situation. Maybe they're feeling lost, and what would you do? You would. This child is innocent. They don't know. They're going into overwhelm, and they just need to be soothed. They just need to be held. And you can do that with whatever's coming up. That's the beautiful thing to start to learn, is that you don't, whatever your circumstances are, you don't need, like, the mind can be like, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and all I need right now is like a mother or a loved one to just tell me that everything's going to be okay. And sure, if you have access to that, that's great. But often we don't. I didn't. A lot of the time I was on my own and dealing with this stuff and learning that all that I needed to do was find that in myself. It's so empowering to realize that when the mind says, I'm feeling so uncomfortable because I'm lonely, this, that's all just thought. And it's entirely possible to give yourself this soothing, this nurturing to your own nervous system. And it's probably the most powerful tool, because sure, you can get this from other people, and it's great if you have somebody like that in your life. I'm not saying like, oh yeah, you must discard a helpful therapist or a helpful family member or a helpful friend or loved one or any pet or anything like that. That is beautiful if you have access to those things, but it doesn't matter if you don't. It really doesn't matter. And it's more powerful to learn this in yourself so that you can apply it whenever anything's coming up, that you start to realize that you are not dependent on somebody else soothing you, right? If other people are dealing with their own shit and, they're not able to be there for you in the way that you had hoped they would or expected they would, that can often lead to quite a bit of inner turmoil as our expectations aren't met. And to realize that, the reason our expectations were disappointed and we got all upset is because we were seeking soothing externally, when that's a setup for disappointment, because you don't know how somebody else is going to respond. So you can have harmonious relationships and supportive relationships, but realize that you can just soothe yourself from within. You don't need to seek soothing from anybody else. You can soothe whatever comes up from within. You really have the power and the capacity to heal yourself, to soothe what's coming up, to be with it, to be the nurturing influence in your own experience. And it is such a powerful thing to learn, because no matter what comes up, then you realize that you have the capacity to feel this. You don't have to feel it in a really, as I said, intense fighting way, like, oh, I'm going to feel the shit out of this. You can do it from gentle, loving space of, it's okay. Sure, I'm just a human being, right? And a human being doesn't always know exactly what to do. You can surrender to the truth that you are vulnerable. You are not got it all figured out. And from that space where we let go into, I just don't know. The change can happen from there, because we let go of what we were holding distance from. The feeling that was making us so stressed out, that was causing our nervous system to go to freeze mode, was trying to hold distance from something that was coming up. So now you let go into it, you realize that you don't have the answers. It's okay. You can feel this feeling of not knowing, of not being good enough, of whatever. Give it love, give it soothing, give it nurturing. And from there, you can see on the other side of it, things might shift, right? That's how this path goes. It's not about figuring it out, the magic formula. It's about letting go into what's here and then just seeing how life takes care of you from there. And you'll be challenged, sure. It's not like, oh, okay, that's it, everything's easy, because there might still be something to work through. But I promise you that you will never just be given what you can't handle, right? It's tricky to say that, because the mind might immediately respond and say, but I can't handle this. And your capacity is greater than you realize. That's what's key here. So just once we let go into this vulnerability, into this helplessness, and just give it love, give it acceptance, it can just be relieving, right? It can be a relief to be like, oh, wow, I don't need to just, have it all figured out all the time. It's okay. So I've done a lot of work here throughout my recovery, after my recovery, when things get tough. I've practiced this a lot, and it's really helpful. At first this was very foreign to me. So if it feels foreign to you now, that's okay. You can practice this. I did a lot of journaling. I did guided meditations around compassion. I did my own meditations around compassion. I did talking to myself, just really training my own soothing, my own inner soothing capacity, nurturing. And it can become very natural. And it can become the go-to when things get difficult and you realize, oh, wow, that is just what I needed to do. I just needed to let go and feel into this. So I wanted to share that. because I have gotten questions about this, and I know that it's very much a part of this experience, these kind of really difficult states. So that's what I would recommend. And I hope that you can try it and find if it works for you.